You've probably heard the cliche phrase that money can't buy happiness, which makes most people roll their eyes. But as my income has increased over the past few years, I've had some pretty eye-opening realizations about money and our relationship to money that I think can help a lot of you. Okay, first of all, I think we all understand the premise behind the phrase money can't buy happiness. At the end of the day, money is just dirty pieces of paper. But let's get the obvious thing out of the way and make it very clear that money is important to an extent. Obviously, you need to eat and keep a roof over your head and that kind of stuff, but it also gives you immense freedom and opportunities to do and experience things that may help you feel fulfilled in other ways. But the first eye-opening truth that I have discovered is how much you make is not nearly as important as how you make your money. Now, this is going to be different for everyone depending on the things that you are interested in, what helps you feel fulfilled, and our own internal moral compasses. And I'm not talking about whether your money-making strategy is good or bad morally or ethically. That's not what we're here to debate. But what I mean by this is, do you feel genuinely fulfilled by the way that you make your money? Or is it simply a means to an end so that you can get your paycheck and go home at the end of the day? The latter is probably true for a majority of people, especially here in the United States. And while it's easy to sit here and say that you need to be passionate about your work, that's a lot easier said than done. So if you're not passionate about your regular job, then don't stress about that too much, but at the very least, you definitely want to try to find something outside of work that fulfills you and that you are passionate about. Another universal truth that you're probably aware of is making a lot of money quickly is usually a really bad thing. We see evidence of this all the time with lottery winners, with 1/3 of all lottery winners eventually declaring bankruptcy. Why is that? Well, obviously these individuals are oftentimes not equipped with the knowledge or past experience on how to manage large amounts of wealth. And also, more money only makes you more of who you already are. If you're a greedy jerk, then making more money is probably only going to make you a bigger greedy jerk. On the flip side of that coin, if you were already a generous and caring person, then obviously having more money would allow you to be even more financially generous. So even if you don't feel like you have a lot of money right now, start working on your knowledge base and skills with the expectation that you will be earning more money in the future so that you can manage it effectively. And also, don't wait until you have a lot of money to be a kind and generous person. Again, build up that muscle now, even if it is in a really small capacity, because once you do start to earn more money, again, it's only going to make you more of who you already are. All right, the last universal truth that I have found before we get into the most important question of today's video is that most people sell themselves way short. Kind of. Most people actually overestimate what they're able to accomplish in a month or a year, but greatly underestimate what they're able to accomplish in 3 years or 5 years. If you had told me 3 years ago that I would be living the lifestyle that I do today, I would have laughed in your face. And no, I'm not driving around in a Ferrari or living in a mansion, but I way underestimated what I was able to accomplish in just a few short years. But on a daily basis, I still overestimate the amount of work I'm able to cram into a 24-hour period. So I guess I still have some stuff to learn too. All right, but that actually brings us to the whole premise of today's video and where we're actually going to, which is how much money do you actually need to feel fulfilled and happy? And why did earning my first $500,000 honestly make me completely miserable? Well, it's tough to put a specific dollar figure on how much you need or how much money is enough, since everyone's lifestyle and expectations are going to be different, especially depending on where you live. But you may have heard of a 2010 study that found that people's happiness boosted significantly up to about $75,000 per year in earnings, and this was specifically a US study. And after that, their increase in happiness dropped significantly. Sounds great, but unfortunately, more recent studies have actually debunked those findings, and now it looks like that same drop-off point is closer to to $500,000 per year, which I think is absolutely ridiculous and honestly is a clear indicator that our societal expectations have increased significantly in the past decade. What was considered enough in terms of a house and a car and the trips that you could go on has now been elevated tenfold by society, and people now feel like they need to stretch a little bit further just to get that bigger house or the nicer car or go on that cooler trip just for the sake of getting the Instagram photo. And I'm not judging anyone for that because we have all stepped in that trap, myself included. What's more interesting though is that same more recent study also found that 15% of participants fell into a category that researchers called rich and miserable, while the happiest 30% of participants experienced accelerated happiness once they were earning $100,000 per year, which I think is a much more realistic goal. As my income started to increase significantly over the past few years, I can say with absolute confidence and certainty that the happiest and most fulfilled that I felt was honestly right when my income first started to increase. And that's largely because an increase from $1,000 a month to $5,000 per month is a 400% increase. But in order to experience that same percentage increase, starting from $5,000 a month, you would now have to earn $25,000 a month. And that problem only gets exponentially worse the more money you make. My point being, I think there's a sweet spot that's gonna be a little bit different for everyone, where you feel the most amount of peace and have enough money to live a comfortable lifestyle without these stresses that come with significant amounts of income and wealth. Now, I am personally nowhere close to significant amounts of wealth, and honestly, after doing a lot of research for this video, I'm not even sure that it's something I want to achieve. But I will say from firsthand experience that as my income passed that multiple six-figure threshold and things began to grow really quickly at my business, and we began hiring team members and buying more equipment and had much higher overhead, my level of stress very quickly caught up to my income because I now had others looking to me for answers. And that is something that you don't experience if you're able to keep that stress level under control and find that sweet spot of income to happiness. But again, that place is gonna be a little bit different for everybody. But again, in my case, it got so bad that a year ago, I had to completely slam on the brakes and take a step back and reevaluate what I was doing and why I was doing it. Because going back to our conversation from earlier, if you're making $1 million a year, but you are absolutely miserable and hate every part of your work, then sure, you could probably do that for a short period of life, but it is not sustainable in the long term. And in my opinion, all the money in the world is not worth it if you were constantly miserable and stressed out. Okay, so according to that study, the happiness to income sweet spot was around $100,000 for those that participated in the study, which again is going to vary from person to person. But what tangible steps can you actually take in your life right now to maximize your income and your happiness? Well, the first thing I found is how you handle your income is way more important than how much income you have. This one is kind of obvious, but if you're really focused on minimizing your stress levels, which I definitely think you should be, then I have found nothing to be a better cure for stress than living below your means financially. I made a pretty embarrassing and eye-opening video last year exposing my own unhealthy spending habits and how I was earning a good income, but wasn't really tracking where all of that money was going. And after spending the past year tracking every single penny using a budgeting app, being intentional about how I am using the financial gifts that I have been given, I have not only felt more peace in my life than ever before, but I've also felt more fulfilled and have actually seen my income increase as well, which is kind of a hilarious byproduct of being able to make clear and stress-free decisions. And I now keep a really close and intentional eye on my income to stress ratio, and if a slight increase in income comes with a huge increase in stress, then I can just say never mind because I know it is just not worth it for me. And that is an unbelievable blessing that you honestly cannot put a price tag on. Also, not speaking from experience here, but I would assume that once you hit those crazy high income tiers of multi-million dollars per year in income, you probably find that you're walking around with a target on your back between constant lawsuits and the IRS knocking on your door. So for me personally, probably something I want to avoid. So I know I've thrown a lot at you in this video, but as your main takeaway, genuinely ask yourself, what do you really want? Because trust me, it's not money. Again, money is just dirty pieces of paper. What most people actually want is just freedom and peace. And will money move you in that direction? Sure, and anyone who says otherwise is probably lying to themselves. But it's also incredibly important that you find fulfillment in other ways, that you're able to be generous with your income, and that you have your basic needs met and are living below your means so that you can maximize your income without sacrificing too much in your day-to-day life. But these are all just my thoughts and the things that keep me up at night, so let me know what you think of this income to stress debate down in the comment section below, and also check out some of my favorite financial tools that I personally use down in the description as well. As always, take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.